So let me start by welcoming first of all the Minister of Agriculture, the Honorable Sabuto Caesar. I won't tell you how I know him, but we also recognize representatives from the ministry here as well. We have several members of the board, our board of directors for the Cannabis Authority, and we're very happy to have you guys here as well. Several invited guests, happy to see you and happy to know that there's so much interest in what's going on here with view to what this lab will help us to be able to achieve. Also want to thank the members of the media who are here today. I see at least 4 sets of you. Always a pleasure. In addition, our CEO and staff, Dr. Gerald Thompson, our staff members are all over, I think, trying to find some shade this afternoon. But really this afternoon I want to say a special welcome to Sherry and Matthias Piasecki, who are here from Florida, as I think everybody knows by now. They are our partners in the establishment of this facility, and we are really, really happy to have them here. Really looking forward to see what we can build together. The program this afternoon is quite short. I think everybody has by now a copy. We're just going to go through it as is before we have the guided tours of the facility itself. But before we start, I want to welcome Miss Chelsea Tony, who is one of our staff members, just to open us with a word of prayer. My name is Jean Saville Cummings. I work here at the authority and I run the technical department. And it was really my pleasure to be leading the team that facilitated the construction and the outfitting of this facility. It has been a challenge, I won't lie. I'm sure Sherry and Matthias, if they get the opportunity, will convince you as much. But it really has been a privilege, and we are very fortunate here, I think, to have a tremendous group of people on staff who are very much committed to what we're trying to do here, recognizing the vision of what this facility is going to allow us to accomplish. There are several members of the Nutrition Cultivator Group who are here as well today, I forgot to mention. And we've had lots of conversations with them specifically about this facility, about how it will facilitate the industry. And I'm really happy to see them here today, knowing that we're very, very close to fulfilling our promises on that in terms of the operation of the facility itself. Overall, the facility, I won't tell you, I won't bore you with the details, but let me just say that we're very proud of it. We've gone through a lot here in the development of this facility. There's so many things that, pieces of infrastructure, bits of material and supplies that did not exist here in St. Donegal, things that we had to import. We've had thankfully a good relationship with customs and with finance who allowed us to bring these things in a manner that is sustainable to us. It's been a tremendous learning experience, I think, for myself and for the staff as well, to understand how facilities like this can actually exist in St. Vincent, and to understand the protocols that have to be in place to really enable them. And of course, this facility being here makes it easier for the next facility to get set up. We have representatives of companies here who are also setting up facilities of different kinds, but which depend on some of the similar types of supplies, similar materials. And now, as we've gone through this process, we have an understanding of it. There are contractors here on the island who have an understanding of it. Our customs partners have an understanding of it. And with luck, it's going to make the entire thing a lot more easy the next time we have to go through this. I know certainly, I feel like a bona fide project manager and electrician and everything else by this time. So it's been fantastic. But really happy to have you guys here as we do these guided tours today. We're going to hear from our CEO, Dr. Thompson, and also from the Honorable Minister a little bit later. But it really has been a privilege up until now, and really happy to have you guys here to be able to share with you what we've been able to accomplish. And so our first speaker today is Dr. Gerald Thompson. I think everybody knows by now Dr. Thompson very well. There are times when I have to introduce him. Thankfully, this is not one of them. So let me just go ahead and welcome Dr. Gerald Thompson to the podium to give us some remarks. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John, Minister. I know you must be very proud of the vision that we've had from you. I think has really been remarkable from the early years of the conceptualization of the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act. I think we want to really appreciate your guidance in this regard. All other members of the board, the Deputy Chair here, and all our other special guests, traditional cultivators. This is supposed to be a soft launch. That means that we'll be speaking to the Prime Minister, and we will be having something a little bigger, barring what Elliot and the task force, the COVID, allows us to do. But I want to say here that this has been a long, hard, and giant step in many achievements that the MCA has made, but I think this is probably the most crucial. And I want, like John, to welcome Caribbean Gold Management, Sherry and Matthias Piasaki. And I would say, before I make my remarks, you see me down for brief remarks, please. You know, I'm a little bit like this. I'm not a brief remarks person. You know, I'm not sure how that fits here. But I want to say a few other things about the medicinal cannabis industry, its achievements, and set the stage. And in the creation of a cannabis industry, when most people think, some people may think of industrial markets, too often they either think of massive industrial plants and assembly lines, steel plants and huge vats pouring things there and there, colossal factories cranking out products to fill shelves. Others may think of a more traditional type of industry. We've had in agriculture, you know, dashing, ginger, turmeric, placing them into sacks and getting them to the port on a boat to be shipped off. These two pathways beg the question: do you follow the norms where the standard pathway may lead, or instead chart a course where there may be no existing path and create and leave your own trail? It said innovation and new creative ideas are ever changing the face of modern manufacturing industry. And never before in the history of mankind has the pace of innovation and technological innovation been so fast as it is today, such that no nation may ever successfully in the long term, or be successful in the long term, without a really strong, innovative, vibrant, and quality-oriented manufacturing base. And ever since that wonderful day in December 2018, when we passed the Medicinal Cannabis Industry Act, I and the team had always realized that many persons in this nation thought that medicinal cannabis was going to be similar to that pathway where we load things onto a boat and we ship them off. But it's about building blocks, pillars on which the industry needed to be built, and the time, being patient for the time that it might take to build them. And in the words of Nelson Mandela, it always seems impossible until it's done. We developed a strategic industry plan, appropriate regulations, licensing, patient access and standard compliance regs, to give greater detailed guidance to this industry. One large elephant in our midst was the United Nations sent a Commission on Narcotic Drugs and INC. Many people don't know about this. They don't understand that there is a very restrictive treaty that we have to abide by. And there are many who would say, to hell with the UN. Let's kick the doors down. Let's be bold. But cannabis has been in two of the most restrictive schedules on that treaty's list. And I'm very pleased on one part that on November the 4th last year, finally after 60 years of this treaty that we had to abide by, the United Nations CND finally recognized cannabis as having medicinal properties. Can you imagine that? Finally. You know, we may clap for that, but unfortunately, they did not, and whilst they removed it from Schedule 4, the most restrictive schedule, they still kept it in Schedule 1. That meant it required a whole ton of regulations, and it was still some of the most restricted narcotic substances, even more restrictive than cocaine and opioids. So it is something that we have read at you. And I want to just list and announce several of the MCAs and the cannabis industry's major achievements. And you know, largely before we pass the suite of legislation and laws, we were very pleased that at the INCB for the last 2 years, we've been able to achieve fairly decent, I would say a large estimate that they've awarded us for the use of cannabis here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Nothing to do with export, but we have been successful, a lot of work, and we have an INCB liaison and so forth, Ms. Denny Pear. We work very hard in doing against. This has been a big achievement, so that we probably, maybe, I'm not sure, one of the few islands in the Caribbean that have actually achieved this. We developed a robust banking sector for legal cannabis. And we did this with the largest, or one of the largest banks in Canada. And unfortunately, we didn't have a solution for United States. And there are a number of US investors who could not move forward because of the federal restrictions. You may hear about this state has legalized and that state has legalized, but federally, cannabis is still illegal. There's some moves and so forth to change this, but we don't know when this may take place. And I'm pleased also to say that we've developed a legal solution, a legal protocol, by which companies that may be US-based can also, like similar to the way they invest in Canada and so forth, that they are able to follow a particular protocol and achieve special banking and permission and so forth here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. I want to also announce that the MCA and St. Vincent has teamed with the largest seed-to-sale company in Canada. They were taken over by Akerna, but their relationship with us has just been, I think, brotherly. And they recently published a major promotion in the press talking about the software that they are building and is in construction that we will receive soon, that will ensure that the work of tracking patient access and what is used in pharmacies and dispensaries is made so easy without a lot of paper and so forth. And I'm really pleased that that is another big one. And everyone should know that medicinal cannabis is available in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and over 100 patients or close to it have actually been able to receive prescriptions and to use medicinal cannabis and gain the benefits for almost, well, over 20 qualified conditions that are legal here in St. Vincent and Grenadines. And one patient met me the other day who had been having excruciating pain, back pain. And they told me that it put a smile on their face. Really? And I'm really, as a medical doctor, you know, that puts a smile on my face too. Let me put it that way. You know, I want to say that you may have seen in the medicinal cannabis, the medicinal cannabis growing before your eyes, plant by plant. I'm talking about industrial plant by plant or farm by farm, all in spite of the COVID-19 pandemic and the last free eruption. and the global economic fallout. Not all of the companies that we offered licenses to were able to come forward because of these three reasons. But those that have established are well on their way. And certainly the revenue that we may have expected to have received from licenses has been reduced. What we talked about before, that has been reduced. But what we're looking for now is the individuals who have gained employment within the industry, permanent jobs. And you know, even at this lab here, you're going to see and hear about that particular factor. But in terms of the other industry, and then in terms of the equipment and the economic activity of the sector, the Ministry of Finance has been impressed with what is taking place, and it's something that the Controller of Customs has pointed out to us. It has also raised an eyebrow from him too, in terms of the level of activities, in terms of the value of trade and economic activity coming into service again. Very important. But I want to also say that our traditional and local farmers have planted, some have sold their first crop within the industry, and new contracts suggest a fair and lucrative compensation compared to other ordinary crops. But farmers have received also extensive training in good agricultural and collection practices, GACP, one of the MCA's adopted standards. We believe if everybody else seems to be trying to do it one way, there may be more opportunities the other ways. And so the era we now live in, often called Industry 4.0, is not really a revolution, it's more an evolution from the 1970s and so forth, where competitiveness is, and we have to respond. But the whole thing is really about quality, efficiency, and safety, and being able to prove that. And quality also means doing it right. Remember so many times speaking to Ledger, and he's telling me about qualm or squam or whatever the case may be, and the whole quality. But the point about it is that, you know, quality means doing it right when no one is looking, and doing it right all the time. And this is where the lab comes in. I'm a microbiologist and infectious disease specialist. But there are many countries of the world, places that sell food and medicines and natural medicines, that what you eat, what you take may not be safe. If you travel to some countries and you eat a fresh, healthy salad, it looks healthy, but it's been washed with tap water, you may find yourself sitting on a toilet bowl for a week, or you may even die. E. coli, salmonella, shigella, fungal spores, toxins that can contaminate product. We discovered and decided very early that we were going to construct a high quality lab. It could provide us with a document called a certificate of analysis, which is like a passport for cannabis products in international exports and local use of cannabis. You know, we're talking about a passport for humans with COVID, but we're talking about this as a certificate of analysis in a different regard. And not only will this state-of-the-art lab test for potency of many different cannabinoids, not just THC and so, but also CBG and CBC and CBN. A kilo of CBD sells for $300 US a kilo. A kilo of CBG sells for 70,000 a kilo. Terpenes, the stuff that gives the cannabis the smell and the aroma, also have, and people that are combining different terpenes in different ratios for specific diseases. At the same time, ensuring that the product is safe. We have to make sure bacteria, spores, heavy metals, pesticides are not in these products. And I am really pleased that partnering with the place that we may have constructed a building on their direction, but they have provided some state-of-the-art equipment, and they will manage this particular process to ensure and obtain the various standards and certifications that will make St. Vincent a rare player. But I'm very pleased to see not only Mr. Ledger and Elliot and Sohail, the director of our medical lab in Kingston Memorial Hospital, but also folks from Rainforest, because we don't want to have this just for cannabis alone. We see this lab being able to serve the fishing industry, the arrowroot industry, and many other sectors. And I'm sure that this is some of the ideas that the minister has been also talking about. And herbs and so forth, medicinal herbs, they all need to be tested, because you can't have spores and pesticide and other toxins in there. And if we can ensure that people have grown these things according to good agricultural and collection practices, it's a wonderful thing. I want to wrap up and say that I am very, very pleased. Today's a great day. It's a wonderful day. And even though it's a soft launch, I know we wanted to do something before the Prime Minister and so fully recovers, and so he could come and enjoy this. I should make this joke, but there's some who might say that maybe the Prime Minister could benefit from some of the products and so that are being produced and so forth within the industry. I take that lightly, Minister. You know what I mean? Hope isn't taken. But we are going to see over the next week, I believe, the renewal of the amnesty process. The TCs have been hit hard on the slopes of Las Refrain. We actually surveyed 300 acres of land to give out to traditional cultivators. About to do that just in November last year. It was held up just for some minor reason, and now Soufriere has held that. The Lahars, the land is still good in my view, but the Lahars at the Walugu River seem just perilous and dangerous, and so we'll have to have some pause. But I want to announce that a company out of Jamaica decided to donate a substantial amount of seeds to St. Vincent the Grenadines and the MCA. Very high quality tropical strains that are mold resistant, drought resistant, and so forth. And we're happy, and we should, on the 21st of this month, receive them. We're looking to sign an MOU with the Tissue Culture Lab to make sure that seedlings are available. We have an MOU with the Community College so that students who may want to get into this industry, whether it's a lab or whether it is working on a particular plant or farm or doing something on their own, becoming entrepreneurs, that they could get a head up. And of course, the community colleges said we could also help train and add some little touches to the traditional cultivators who know their stuff, but need just to be fine-tuned in terms of certain arts. So with that, I know those were quite brief remarks, but you know, we are very pleased, and this really is a small event representative of the industry. And I want to say thank you to all members of staff, the MCA staff who work hard. I'm not going to single out any particular person, but I want to say that we have a lot of work to do, and we want to promise the people of St. Vincent Grenadines that our goal is to export product. Yeah, we have product available here in St. Vincent. We could not export without having this lab, without being able to test it, without being able to prove that the quality is good, that there's no toxins and so forth. We can't just ship away just so. We have to be able to test, and having a certificate and that passport, you know, for a product is absolutely essential. And so I'm really pleased that we have come this far, and we have to go much further. I'm expecting that some great things are going to happen, and that traditional cultivators in particular who've been waiting for these particular prospects could see products that they too have grown and they have to up their game, can be purchased too, and be part of this whole new industry that is growing slowly but steadily as a quality industry here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So thank you very much, David.
Our next speaker again is somebody who does not need a lot of introduction here. The Honorable Minister Caesar, I would say that over the last 2 years at least since I've been here, we've had so many conversations about what's going on here at the authority, what's going on in the industry, and certainly what was going on here in the lab. I have to say that he's been very supportive throughout that process, and we're very thankful for his guidance and leadership in that sense. We're very happy again to have you here, Minister, to help us do this soft launch of this facility, and I'm looking forward to hearing your remarks on how you think it's going to work for us going forward. So, Minister Caesar, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, CEO of the Cannabis Authority, and members of staff, the Chief Agriculture Officer, Mr. Renato Bums, and staff from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, Fisheries, Rural Transformation, Industry and Labor, the board members here of the MCA, the representatives here from Caribbean Gold Standard, representatives from the Department of Health, Customs, the private sector, Bureau of Standards, and I want us to give, as I usually ask at all times, a special round of applause for the traditional cultivators. "15 years ago, if it was said that spirit cattle and a Rasta man from Greg's name Latai with representative from Customs and a few men from Honorsville, that they out in Rivulet talking about weed, let your people to call police, SSU would have come, and they would have locked up every single man jack, especially if they hear that spirit and spirit come holy. Sounds like a joke, and I ain't stop anybody from laughing, spirit. But the reality is, the world and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, it is changing before our very eyes. As a prosecutor in the courts of St. Vincent and the Grenadines in 2005, on a Monday morning, men were dragged before the court, bringing these things in a bag, because there wasn't a system and a program for a license. And I could remember as a secondary school student walking through Kingstown, the capital, one afternoon, and we saw the Marijuana Growers Association having a picket. Remember that, spirit? Right opposite the police station. Very peaceful one though. Men stood up there with their placards, and what they were saying then, Many persons couldn't understand what they were saying then, but they were speaking about the strength, the opportunities and the possibilities that we have with cannabis. Today is a day for celebration, and as part of the celebration, I want to commend the Cannabis Authority and the staff, the liaison officers, for the excellent work that they continue to do. The MC of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the best in the Caribbean, and you deserve to give them a round of applause for that, to show your appreciation. I could remember a few years ago when the idea was planted. Some persons said we had to build a facility for $5 million to house the MCA. Well, we didn't build a $5 million facility. I am from the old school, and I was taught that you have to use what you have to get what you want. And this facility, which was once known as the Rivulet Agriculture Station, has been transformed in terms of its infrastructure, and today we are here to welcome the newest sibling, a very important wing, and I want us to give a special round of applause to Caribbean Gold Standard for being here. Today, we are standing on hundreds of years of history where we witnessed the movement of many plants from many distant lands to our shores. When the Caribs and the Arawaks came up the Orinoco River pre-Columbus, they brought with them their skills in fishing and hunting and gathering, but importantly, they brought with them several plants. And medicine existed long before Dr. Gerald Thompson went to study medicine. And we must give respect to the herbalists and to our ancestors who have centuries of work researching medicine in this Caribbean and here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But not only did we receive plants from South America, as a result of the transatlantic slave trade, when our foreparents came from Africa, they brought with them plants as well. And in the period of indentureship, when our brothers and sisters and one of our parents came from India, they also brought with them plants. And from China, and plants also from Europe. It is that platform today that the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines have reflected upon it, and we see it as a fundamental developmental pillar for growth and advancement in this country today and for the foreseeable future. So what we are here to discuss and to have an immediate appreciation, the Medicinal Cannabis Authority addresses cannabis. But yesterday, I received a very important letter from the International Narcotics Control Board, and it spoke to the issue, responding to a letter that we wrote to them, that every single plant in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, or any plant you want to bring to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, once you are using it for scientific research or medicinal purposes, and you have a regulatory framework in place, that you can use those plants. And that is a significant breakthrough. We don't do things in this country as a government willy-nilly. You want to do something, you have to clear it with the cabinet, to clear it with the Attorney General, might have to clear it with the DPP, you have to clear it with customs, with planning. But we have signed on to international treaties and conventions, and we are not an island by ourselves. We have to clear it with the rest of the world. I want to thank Caribbean Gold Standard, that of all the countries in the entire world that they could have gone to invest, they chose to invest in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And let us give them a welcome and show our appreciation. It also means that as astute businessmen and women, that they also see the potential gums that is here in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And as Dr. Thompson said, they are not here only to deal with issues touching and concerning cannabis, but they are here to deal with issues touching and concerning our quest to lift all standards. I see a representative here from Rainforest Seafood. That is a company out of Jamaica that will be opening its doors before the end of this year and will be employing over 50 persons to work. We're talking about jobs, talking about employment, we're talking about industry. We're not only talking about cannabis, we have to talk about fish. But when you speak about fish, you also have to speak about the quality of the fish. And I remember when I joined the Ministry of Agriculture as a junior minister, if you want to test anything, Mr. Gums used to tell me you have to send it to a place called Kariri. And you have to put it on a plane, and you have to put it on a boat. And somebody have to either go with it. Sometimes they send the thing will last. To send more again. And it's when Kariri has time to assess and to analyze it, they will do the assessment and send it back. And sometimes you might see a scientist in the Ministry of Agriculture on a particular research and he's taking 6 and 7 months. But sometimes it could take you 3 and 4 months to get back the results from Kariri. Now all that consultant has to do in St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the ministry, if you don't have a car, you catch a van, come out right there at Rivulet, Tiger may be passing in the same time, could ask Tiger for a ride, flag down Tiger, come right here, drop it off here. Within a matter of days, Umistan King, also known as Tiger, could call him and say, come pick up that thing, and right there, within a matter of a week, something. And I was advised, a week is long. But just juxtapose that, a few days as opposed to 3 to 4 months. We need to give this our blessing. I want to close on this point And it has to do with some of the fundamental pillars for indigenous wealth creation that we are going to address as a ministry and as a government. One has to do with the establishment of a modern, competitive medicinal wellness platform that not only deals with cannabis but with psychedelics, also dealing with many other plants for wellness. And of course in that will be wellness tourism. Secondly, the advancement of the fishery sector and the blue economy. Thirdly, very important, our food import bill today stands at close to $200 million. And we are going to work with several stakeholders, cooperatives, farmers groups, to see how we can take out of that $200 million, $100 million worth of goods that could be produced locally. And we want, when we produce those goods locally, that we can test the quality here at Caribbean Gold Standard. Because for far too long there is a growing suspicion in our country that a lot of the commodities that we are importing, and I want consumers who are listening, I want the housewife in South Central Windward buying a lot of onions coming in from overseas. I want the persons who own restaurants who are cooking a lot of carrots coming from overseas. And persons from the Rastafari community using a lot of sweet pepper coming from overseas. That we are going to test everything coming into this country right here. And if it can't make the standard, you cannot come into this country with that product. There are too many persons who are suffering from so many ailments. Some people telling you now when you reach 40 years old, you better thank God. Well, you have to thank God every day. But what they're saying is that some of the food that we are eating, because we don't have the means to test them, because if Gums want to test them and he had to send them down to Kariri, and he had to wait 6 months, and he had to hold up the thing, then the private sector who we work very closely with could become annoyed. But this is not just a matter of convenience. The children in our primary schools today, their teachers can tell them about this. The science students in secondary school across this nation, secondary schools across this nation, and at the A-level college, the technical college, they can have bigger dreams that one day I want to work in a world-class lab. That lab out at Rivulet. I thank you, and may God continue to bless you. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Minister. I have to say I was one of those young science students who wanted to work in a world-class facility here. So really, you know, it's that part of it. I think is something that touches individuals who've grown up here. With a dream to be able to do science and to do high quality work. And this lab, I mean, we're not just talking about jobs here, but it's a job that this facility allows to be created in other parts of the industry as well, that can really impact that aspect of education. So thank you very much for those remarks, Minister, and we share your vision for where this lab is going to go and the importance it will have in the St. economy going forward. That actually brings us to the end of our short program here today. We are going to proceed inside with some guided tours by Matthias and Sherry of Caribbean Gold Standard.
I want to introduce myself. I'm Sherry Piasecki, the Chief Operating Officer You've already heard the name Matthias Biasecki. He's our Chief Executive Officer. We actually have a few other positions on the board. I wish they were able to be here today, but hopefully for the next event, they definitely will be. So what I would like at this time is we're going to take about 3 or 4 individuals through the lab, understanding we're still setting up and the tables have a lot of devices and computers, so we're just asking that we'll go through the main pathway. I'll do some explanations. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask us. And then we'll circle back through because we're going to start at this point and circle out this way. So there's going to be a desk and a specific chain of custody. So for every specimen that's coming in the door, the clients, the farmers, rainforest, whoever the client is, they will be bringing us the specimens in a certain formation. Others, we will actually be going to the farms and picking up samples as well. But when the specimen comes into this room, they're going to be tagged and they're going to be labeled as to location and where we received them from and some other specific information such as that. There will be a documented handoff because we are going to be very strict with those specimens as far as once they're received to us, that they're properly handled and stored until they get to the bench where they're going to be tested. This is extremely necessary for the efficiency and the validity of the specimen and those end results that we're going to be getting. Any questions? All right. Those tanks that you see, those big humongous tanks over there, those are medical gases that are used to run a lot of the equipment. So we have gases such as helium, nitrogen, argon, liquid argon. Those are necessary for the methodology. All right. So the next room you'll be entering is the main lab area. And if you want to, you can kind of, start with that. In front of you right now, I'm going to go from this side of myself around, but these are what we call high complexity laboratory analysis equipment. So as I told you, this is one of our engineers. He's busy at work. We're in that process of setting up each of the machines. But we'll start with this over here. These are, to my very left, gas chromatography. Gas chromatography is a high complex methodology for doing specific analysis that becomes very quantitative. We use those machines also in a clinical setting. For example, this is gas and this is liquid chromatography. So in the clinical setting, a liquid chromatography mass spec can be used for toxicology. Specifically, if you're treating any type of pain management patients as such, and you're adding or taking away from their plan of care method of medications, you're wanting to make sure that what is in their system is exactly what is prescribed, nothing that is contraindicated. So you can do easy tests, rapid tests we call them, for a plus minus, but that doesn't give you the specific levels. And it doesn't give you the specific medications. So if you keep that kind of concept in mind, it's the same concept here for what we're going to be testing with cannabis, and then as we move forward with other products. So we're going to be testing for heavy metals, we'll be testing for residuals, mycotoxins, microbacteria like E. coli, which would be in that room, and other specific test needs for any product that we're working with. The far room behind us, I'll just, if you want to come this way, you can kind of zoom in from this. This is called a ICP-MS, just another form of high complex lab testing. For instance, we have a drying oven, we have a grinder, we have centrifuge, we have a lot of other focus is here because this is what makes this lab what we're completely familiar with the term PCR because of COVID-19. So again, a piece of equipment that's used for multiple purposes. But in here, we're going to be testing for E. coli, salmonella, a bacterial micro-component such as that.
Could do virus also?
Yes. Yes, it could be, yes. Again, this is just one of the adjunct piece of equipment, centrifuge handle that we already have. It's just another process of just adding a method onto the machine. So again, customizable, benefits of helping any and all of our clients for all their needs of export, import, etc.
What's the question?
On the machine. But you can also derive a secondary to go in the GC as well. So we can expedite results. We can get pretty much a result right now. We anticipate within 48 hours on the basic count.
Just about But based on what I'm seeing here, that principally your analysis will be chemical. You will not, doesn't seem like you don't do a lot of microbiological testing.
Well, the micro is on the PCR.
On PCR.
And we'll have a large microscope for gross analysis.
Okay.
So before we put a specimen on the PCR, we're going to do a gross analysis with microscope just to see, you know, what possibly is on that specimen.
Let me just ask a question. Something like starch content in like a rice, so you will
Exactly.
do that. And the other question, pesticide residue level. I know you can't do it here, right? Because that's not the main. The sensitivity, because you know you keep dropping the standard, the level.
Right.
They keep jumping and keep elevating.
Yes, they're making it tighter, but you don't know any level.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so your equipment has to be pretty sensitive.
Yes,
Right.
that is the purpose of utilizing these machines because of the sensitivity and efficacy. So, for example with liquid chromatography, you can actually drop your cutoff levels to a very low desired. Like if you want to be extremely strict, you know, normally like a trace or a little bit higher would be, you know, a negative result. But if you want to drop it down to where just above trace element, then we can do so. But
Okay.
the standards are a little bit different. We go by what the community, what we would call the community standards are. And that's where our scientists that are coming in next, Liz and Jim Sherburne, they're coming from the Northeast. They've been working on machines like this for over 20 years. So they will adjust it according to our desires.